Hola clase, ¿cómo están? En esta presentación voy a hablar sobre los pronombres de objeto indirecto. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about indirect object pronouns in Spanish. Muy bien, vamos a empezar. So pronouns replace nouns, and we use pronouns to avoid repetition in language. An indirect object pronoun replaces an indirect object of a sentence. So how do we find the indirect object? To find the indirect object of the sentence, we need to ask ourselves to whom or for whom an action is done. For example, if I read the sentence in English, Maria reads a book to Juan, the action or the verb is to read. Okay, the direct object is a book, so what is being read? A book is being read. And then for whom is the book being read? The book is being read for Juan or to Juan. So that means that Juan is the indirect object of this sentence. Once we find the indirect object of the sentence, then we can replace it with an indirect object pronoun. For example, in English, Maria reads a book to him, okay, to him would be the indirect object pronoun that replaces the indirect object. The indirect object was Juan. So here are the indirect object pronouns in Spanish. We have me, te, le, nos, os, and les. And notice these are the same pronouns you use with the verb gustar. So when you say me gusta, te gusta, le gusta, you're using indirect object pronouns. So if there's only one verb in the sentence, the indirect object pronoun always goes before the verb, the conjugated verb. For example, María lee un libro a Juan. Okay, so again, this is Maria reads a book to Juan. Maria is the subject of the sentence. She's doing the action. The verb of the sentence is leer, to read, so she's reading. The direct object of the sentence is a book. So what is she reading? She's reading a book. And then the indirect object of the sentence, to whom or for whom, is Juan. So Maria reads a book for or to Juan. In this sentence, she reads a book to Juan. So Juan is the indirect object of our sentence. Now we're going to replace the indirect object with an indirect object pronoun. And if you recall from our chart on the last slide, the he, she form is le. So we're going to have le, and that's going to go before the conjugated verb. So when we replace Juan with an indirect object pronoun, it's going to look like this. María lee un libro. And that translates to Maria reads a book to him. And the syntax or the word order is different in Spanish because the indirect object pronoun goes before the verb, right? So it's quite literally, Maria, him, she reads a book. But you would never say that in English. It would just be Maria reads a book to him. But in Spanish, it's natural to say María le lee un libro. Okay, muy bien. So if there are two verbs in the sentence, the indirect object pronoun can either be placed before the conjugated verb or it can be added to the end of the infinitive. So let's take a look at some of those examples. So here I have María quiere leer un libro a Juan. And this is Maria wants to read. So now we have two verbs. The first one's conjugated. The second one is left in the infinitive because they're back to back, right? Maria wants to read a book to Juan. María quiere leer un libro a Juan. So I can take Juan and replace him with an indirect object pronoun because he's the indirect object, right? And it's going to be le again. And I can put it before the conjugated verb. So that would be María le quiere leer un libro. Or since there's two verbs in the sentence, I have the other option of putting the indirect object pronoun after the verb in the infinitive. So this would be María quiere leerle un libro. So both of these mean Maria wants to read a book to him, and it really doesn't matter if you put the indirect object pronoun before the conjugated verb or if you tack it onto the end of the infinitive, as long as you're choosing one or the other. So to figure out which indirect object pronoun to use, if the action is done to me or for me, you would use me. If the action is done to you or for you, it would be te. If the action is done for him, for her, or for you formal, it's going to be le. If the action is done to us or for us, it's going to be nos. If it's done for you all in Spain, or if it's done to you all in Spain, it's going to be os. And finally, if it's done to you all or for you all or them, it's going to be les. So a couple more examples here. Juan compra la revista para Pedro. This translates to Juan buys the magazine for Pedro. So again, Juan is the subject of the sentence. The verb is comprar, to buy. Okay, that's what he's doing. The direct object of the sentence is a magazine, la revista. Okay, and the indirect object of the sentence, to whom or for whom the action is being done, is Pedro. So the magazine is being bought for Pedro. Pedro is the indirect object of the sentence. So we're going to replace Pedro with an indirect object pronoun. And that indirect object pronoun is going to be le. So for this sentence, since there's only one conjugated verb, there's only one verb in this sentence, there's only one place I can put that indirect object pronoun, and that's before the conjugated verb. So we have Juan le compra la revista. And that's Juan buys the magazine for him. Okay, another example. Juan compra las revistas para Pedro. So now we're changing the direct object pronoun to plural. So now we have magazines, and it's Juan buys the magazines for Pedro. Pedro, the indirect object, hasn't changed here. So notice the le stays the same. Okay? So it's still just Juan le compra las revistas. Okay, another example. Andrea da los regalos a sus amigos. This is Andrea gives the gifts to her friends. So her friends is the indirect object of this sentence. And now we're going to replace the indirect object with an indirect object pronoun. Now we have multiple people, it's plural. So our indirect object pronoun is going to be les. So we have Andrea les da los regalos. And that translates to Andrea gives the gifts to them. And notice I'm putting the indirect object pronoun before that conjugated verb, because there's only one verb in the sentence. Okay, another example. Ella hace un pastel para ti. And this would be, she makes a cake for you. Okay, so it's for you. And now, since it's for you, our indirect object pronoun is going to be te. So this is going to be, ella te hace un pastel. She makes a cake for you. Okay, Manuel te quiere a ti. Manuel loves you or likes you. Okay, so a ti is going to be replaced with te. That's our indirect object pronoun, and it's going to be Manuel te quiere. He loves you, okay? Or he likes you. Here we have Manuel nos quiere a nosotros. Manuel loves or Manuel likes us, okay? A nosotros, that would be us. So that's going to be Manuel nos quiere. So a nosotros is going to be replaced with nos. Okay, muy bien. Eso es todo. Muchas gracias, clase, y hasta la próxima.